Jamaica is about to build something it has never built before. Not another hotel, not another highway, a battery manufacturing plant. And if it works, it could quietly push Jamaica into a completely new economic category. But if it fails, it will be remembered as just another expensive headline. Because the difference between a breakthrough and a headline is execution. Let's start with what we know so far, because this project is further along than a typical announcement. The land has been identified, the first customer has been named, and the company says construction begins this year. The site is Lake Penn, St. Catherine, inside one of Jamaica's most active industrial corridors, close to Kingston, close to the port. The investment is $30 million. The target, a two-phase high-voltage battery manufacturing facility. Phase 1 produces 200 megawatt-hours of battery storage per year. Phase 2 scales to 500 megawatt-hours annually and goes after the full Caribbean market. And here's what makes this different from every other energy announcement you've heard. The factory already has an anchor customer. That first customer is a 44-megawatt floating solar installation at the Mona Reservoir in Kingston, a project that has already secured all its permits from NEPA, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, and a generating license from the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport. When that project breaks ground, its battery storage is expected to come from this facility. That gives the plant something rare in Jamaica: visible demand from the start. That's not just a concept. That's the beginning of a supply chain. Why this actually matters? 4 reasons, and they go beyond the factory itself. First, the manufacturing shift. Jamaica hasn't built much high-technology manufacturing in decades. Our economy shifted toward tourism, finance, and remittances, which means this battery plant introduces a completely new category of production. And once that capability exists, it tends to attract more factories, more investment, and more complex industries. Second, the energy transition connection. Here's the part that never gets enough airtime. Jamaica's energy problem is existential, and this factory speaks directly to it. 3 realities. Jamaica still depends heavily on imported fossil fuels. The country is targeting roughly 50% renewable generation by 2030, and without storage, that target gets much harder to reach. Without storage, renewables can't run a modern grid. Solar shuts off at sunset. Wind isn't guaranteed. And the moment the sun disappears, diesel generators switch back on. Jamaica has strong solar potential, and the policy direction is already moving toward more renewables and more storage. The government's integrated resource plan prioritizes battery storage, Wigton Wind Farm, Sunterra's new solar contracts, JPS retiring aging fossil units. The demand for what this factory produces is government policy actively in procurement right now. This is where the warranty matters. Derillion says the batteries will come with a 20-year capacity performance warranty. In a hot Caribbean climate, that matters because battery lifespan is one of the biggest commercial questions in storage. Not just marketing a real commercial advantage, if it holds. And here's the question I want you to think about while watching this video. Could Jamaica realistically become the Caribbean's battery supplier? Third, jobs and skills upgrade. The announcement mentions about 100 direct jobs. On paper, that doesn't sound huge, but advanced manufacturing jobs create ripple effects. Engineers, technicians, logistics specialists, maintenance teams. One factory can anchor an entire industrial ecosystem. We are not talking about low-wage assembly work. High-voltage battery manufacturing requires electrical engineers, quality assurance technicians, supply chain managers, and export compliance professionals. Those are the kinds of roles that can strengthen the middle class if Jamaicans are actually trained and hired into them. Fourth, export and regional positioning. Phase 2 of this plant is explicitly targeting the CARICOM regional market, 15 countries, roughly 18 million people, all facing the same imported fossil fuel dependency Jamaica faces. Together, those economies import billions of dollars in fuel every year. Every island government has pledged to transition to renewables. Every one of them will eventually need battery storage. Jamaica could position itself as a regional supplier. Historically, we are commodity exporters: bauxite, sugar, rum, tourism services. A regional battery supplier would be something entirely new. Hard currency through manufactured exports, not raw materials or service fees. The hard questions. Every ambitious infrastructure announcement deserves hard questions. Not to be cynical, but because accountability is how we separate transformational projects from expensive press releases. Question 1. Is $30 million enough? Volkswagen is building a battery gigafactory in Canada that costs about $7 billion. Jamaica's planned investment is nowhere near that scale. But this project is not trying to compete in the global EV race. It is trying to serve a smaller, storage-focused Caribbean market. The question isn't whether Jamaica can compete with the giants. The question is whether Jamaica can become the Caribbean's preferred battery supplier. That's a very different race, and one that's actually winnable. Question 2. Can Jamaica sustain the industrial energy costs? Jamaica has some of the highest electricity costs in the region, and that is a major risk for any energy-intensive manufacturer. Question 3. Will Jamaica develop local talent or import it? The technical expertise for this kind of facility doesn't yet exist in abundance locally. The risk is that the highest paid roles go to expatriate technical teams, while Jamaican workers fill lower value positions. For this to be a genuine skills upgrade, there need to be explicit training pipelines, partnerships with UTech, UWI, and HEART. Question 4. Is this manufacturing or assembly? Phase 1 is described as automated assembly and testing, meaning components made abroad get put together in Jamaica. Assembly builds logistics capability and supply chains. But real industrial power comes from making the core technology, the battery cells themselves. Phase 2, which targets sodium-ion battery cell production, is the version of this project that begins to change that calculus. But Phase 2 is years away and contingent on Phase 1's success. Why St. Catherine? The location isn't accidental. St. Catherine already hosts some of Jamaica's largest industrial facilities, power plants, manufacturing estates, logistics hubs. The industrial DNA is already there. Lake Penn sits within the Kingston Metropolitan Corridor. The Port of Kingston, one of the Caribbean's largest transshipment hubs, is within striking distance. Components arrive by sea. Finished battery systems destined for CARICOM markets leave the same way. That port access isn't a nice-to-have, it's a foundational requirement. And St. Catherine's momentum was already building before this announcement. In 2025, ground was broken on the Raintree Commercial Complex, a 108-acre commercial and light industrial development at Ferry Pen, backed by the Urban Development Corporation. It was the UDC's first commercial development in nearly 3 decades. In other words, this corridor was already building momentum before the battery announcement. Jamaica has talked about economic diversification for decades. Vision documents, JAMPRO pitch decks, ministerial speeches going back to the 1980s, all saying the same thing. We cannot depend on tourism forever. We must build industrial capacity. We must export more than services. $30 million is small by global standards. 100 jobs is not economic revolution. But what this signals is different from its size. It signals that Jamaica can attract technology sector investment, that Jamaica's approvals system may be capable of moving a sophisticated project from announcement to execution, that a British-Jamaican partnership believes in the Jamaican industrial story enough to put real money into it. The difference between transformation and another expensive press release isn't talent. Jamaica has plenty of talent. It isn't geography, the location is right. It isn't even timing. The timing is almost perfect. The difference is follow-through, energy pricing policy, skills training pipelines, a real CARICOM export strategy, not just a press conference, and Derillion delivering Phase 1 on time, so Phase 2 becomes credible. The next 36 months will decide whether this becomes Jamaica's first real step into advanced manufacturing or just another ambitious headline that quietly fades away.